friendship, a romance, a family bond. You tried, you genuinely tried, and somewhere, somehow, it collapsed anyway. And the worst part? You've been here before. Different person, same result. That's not bad luck, that's a pattern. And patterns have a source. Today, we expose the one thing quietly destroying every relationship you've ever had. It lives inside your brain. And it started working against you long before you met anyone. In the 1960s, psychiatrist John Bowlby made a discovery that changed psychology forever. He found that the way we attach to our first caregivers becomes the template for every relationship that follows. Every single one. He called it attachment theory. And what he found was this. By the time you were 2 years old, your brain had already decided how safe other people are. Whether closeness feels like comfort or threat. Whether love feels like safety or danger. You didn't choose that program. But you've been running it in every relationship since. Bowlby's research identified 3 primary attachment styles. The first, secure attachment. The person who learned that closeness is safe. They trust, they communicate, they repair after conflict. About 50% of people have this style. The second, anxious attachment. The person whose caregiver was inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes distant. The brain learned, I must constantly monitor for withdrawal. I must earn love. Love is unstable. The third, avoidant attachment. The person whose needs were consistently unmet. The brain learned, depending on others is dangerous. I must not need anyone. Closeness is a threat. Most relationship problems aren't personality clashes. They're attachment styles colliding. Remember what we said in our first video. Your brain doesn't search for truth. It searches for confirmation. This is even more powerful in relationships. If your brain learned that you are unlovable, it will find evidence for that belief in every relationship you enter. A partner's bad day becomes proof they're pulling away. A moment of distance becomes proof you were right. A conflict becomes proof that love never lasts. Your brain is not reporting what's happening. It's writing a story, using your past as the template and your present as the evidence. Here's where it gets truly dark. Your attachment style doesn't just affect how you perceive relationships. It affects how you behave in them. And your behavior creates outcomes that confirm your original belief. The anxious person clings and drives people away, then confirms, people always leave. The avoidant person withdraws, and the relationship starves, then confirms, intimacy always suffocates. You are not experiencing relationships. You are running a psychological experiment where the hypothesis was formed at age 2, and you've been unconsciously designing every relationship to prove yourself right ever since. There is a paradox at the heart of every troubled relationship. The thing you want most, genuine closeness, being truly known by another person, is the exact thing your brain treats as the greatest threat. Because being truly known means being truly seen. And being truly seen means the possibility of being truly rejected. Your brain runs a calculation. The deeper the connection, the greater the potential pain. And so it builds walls. It creates distance. It sabotages before it can be sabotaged. The cruel irony? The very defenses that protect you from rejection are the ones preventing the connection you need most. When you argue with someone you love, or when they go silent, or when they seem distant, your nervous system doesn't experience this as inconvenience. It experiences it as threat. Real, physical, biological threat. Cortisol floods your system. Your heart rate increases. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational brain, goes offline. This is why you say things in arguments that you don't mean. Why logic disappears. Why the smallest conflict can feel like the end of everything. Your nervous system cannot distinguish between my partner is upset and I am in danger. Because somewhere in your history, they felt like the same thing. Before we go deeper, every week, this channel exposes the hidden mechanics of the human mind. The things your brain does that shape your entire life without asking for your permission. If this video is making you think about your own patterns, if you're starting to see your relationships differently, subscribe right now. Turn on notifications, because what we're about to cover next is where everything changes. Sigmund Freud noticed something disturbing. People repeatedly recreate the emotional conditions of their childhood, even when those conditions were painful. He called it repetition compulsion. The woman who had an emotionally unavailable father finds herself repeatedly drawn to emotionally unavailable partners. The man who was constantly criticized as a child gravitates toward critical relationships, not because he enjoys the pain, but because the familiar feels safe. Even painful familiar is less threatening than unfamiliar love. Your brain mistakes familiarity for rightness, and it will keep recreating the only love it knows until you interrupt the pattern. So what actually changes any of this? Not positive thinking, not trying harder. 4 things, backed by research, that interrupt the pattern. 1. Name your attachment style. You cannot change what you cannot see. Awareness of the pattern is the first intervention. 2. Regulate before you respond. When the nervous system activates during conflict, pause, breathe. The prefrontal cortex needs 60 seconds to come back online. 3. Distinguish past from present. Ask yourself, am I responding to this person or to the ghost of someone from my past? 4. Choose relationships that feel different, not familiar. Healthy love might initially feel boring. That feeling of safety, your nervous system isn't used to it. Trust the boring. The familiar might be the trap. Here's what neuroscience shows about secure relationships. They literally change your brain. Research by James Cohen at the University of Virginia found that when people in secure relationships experience a threat, simply holding their partner's hand reduces the brain's threat response dramatically. The nervous system co-regulates with another person. We literally calm each other's biology. This is called co-regulation, and it's one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. Your nervous system is not designed to function alone. It was built for connection. The problem isn't that you need people. The problem is your brain learned that people aren't safe, and that can be unlearned. Researcher Brené Brown spent years studying what separates people who experience deep connection from those who don't. Her finding was uncomfortable for many. The single most consistent difference: the willingness to be vulnerable. Not performing vulnerability, not strategic oversharing, genuine, unarmored exposure, allowing yourself to be seen without guaranteeing the outcome. Your brain will resist this with everything it has. Because vulnerability is not just emotional exposure. To your nervous system, it is danger. And the cruel truth is this: the armor you wear to avoid rejection is the exact thing preventing the connection that would make the armor unnecessary. There is a moment in every relationship when your brain sends the signal, pull back, something shifts, distance appears. Maybe they said something. Maybe they didn't say something. Maybe nothing happened at all. And your nervous system just decided that it has been too vulnerable for too long. In that moment, between the trigger and the withdrawal, lives the same 3 to 5 seconds we discussed in our video on discipline. The same window, the same choice. Stay, speak, be seen. Not because it's guaranteed to work, but because the only relationships that survive are the ones where at least one person chose to stay in the room. Attachment researchers made another discovery that changed everything. Your attachment style is not permanent. Through what psychologists call earned security, consistent, safe, responsive relationships over time, the brain rewires its fundamental template. This isn't therapy talk, it's neuroscience. The same neuroplasticity that builds discipline builds relational safety. New experiences, consistently repeated, create new neural pathways. The person who learned at age 2 that love is dangerous can learn at any age that love can be safe, but only by staying long enough for the new evidence to accumulate. We began with the relationships that fell apart. Now you know why. Not because you chose wrong, not because love doesn't exist, but because you've been running a program written before you had a choice. Attachment styles, confirmation bias, the nervous system's threat response, repetition compulsion, the intimacy paradox. None of this makes you broken. It makes you human. Running ancient software in relationships that require something newer. The brain that lies to you, that made you watch and do nothing, that destroyed your discipline, is the same brain that is making your relationships harder than they have to be. And the same brain that can be changed. You didn't choose the original code, but you are choosing right now whether to keep running it.